Hello Libra, welcome to Dove and Serpent Tarot. My name is Paul. If Libra is your sun, moon, or rising sign, this is your tarot card reading. Remember to hit the like button, leave a comment. Consider subscribing to the channel, especially if this reading resonates with you. These readings are totally free. If there is anything you would like me to pray over, or meditate upon, or send positive energy toward, please let me know. Now, this is a general reading, so try to be open and receptive to whatever may come through during our time together. I am merely the messenger, and I ask you to connect directly with each of these cards and use your own intuition to take you beyond the details that I provide. And remember, Libra, that the most important part of any tarot reading is you. And here we have the Empress, your general energy. I feel like you're somebody who is, I feel like you're a natural healer, okay? You're probably involved in some sort of healing work, whether it's just for yourself spiritually or emotional healing, physical healings, something along these lines, energetic, spiritual type of stuff. You're somebody who is willing to put in all the blood, sweat, and tears into something. Right? It's that kind of a devotion. It's the willingness to give of ourselves, right, to the other thing, whether it's a goal or it's another person or it's a project or it's the life or it's the universe or it's spirit. Willing to give and give and give of ourselves without expecting anything in return. It's a generosity of your energy here. Okay? I feel like you might be in a role where you are sort of taking care of somebody or taking care of something. I don't know if it's pets, plants, people, something along those lines. It could be that you're sort of taking care of a garden, something along, something like that. I want to put this card into a little bit of context and see what is going on in your life right now. This is a wonderful way to begin. And we've got the Magician. You got an 8 of Swords. You got an 8 of Wands. You got a 9 of Swords. And we have a Prince of Pentacles. On the path of the Serpent, we have a 10 of Pentacles. We have the Hierophant in the environment, which is an interesting place for the Hierophant. We have a 4 of Wands and a 4 of Pentacles. So things are stabilizing. Things are getting into a very, very harmonious routine for you. Things are going to be going very nicely. Okay, I think that you have goals. You know who you're trying to become. You know what you have to overcome in order to become who you wish to be. You have the magic here of the Magician, which, this is you, and you have to remember that you are the Magician, that you're the only one that can do this. And maybe this is what you're trying to teach other people too. That they have to heal themselves. This is the physician or the metaphysician. Doesn't actually heal anybody. Doctors don't heal you. You heal you. The doctor gives you the right advice, gives you the right tools to do that, but it's the body that heals itself, right? It's that internal alchemy, that dynamic inside that brings about healthfulness and well-being, right? Whether physical, mental, emotional, or whatever you want to say. So I think that this is you realizing that you have the magic within you to accomplish your goal, whatever that goal is now. I feel like maybe the goal is a physical one, or I guess it could be finances, okay? But I feel like it's more, we're trying to cultivate a life, and you have to remember that you are the Magician. Let's select the mystery card, and then we'll get into these cards individually, okay? This is a random card from the Smith-Waite Tarot. This is the Factor Infinite and Unknown. And we're going to put it right down here with big red ant right on top. We're not going to look at that card until the very end. It will tie everything together and it will give us the confirmation that we need at the end of the reading. If at any point during this program you feel like you might know what that card is, put your prediction in the comments down below. Okay. Now, as we look around the room, we do see 3 major arcana energies. Very interesting now with between the Magician and the Hierophant, right? The Hierophant in the environment, this is somebody else outside of you telling you what to do. This kind of represents the counselor, the doctor, some sort of external healer, right? External person or energy that's trying to facilitate something for you or on your behalf, right? And maybe this is a spiritual thing, because this could then be the priest, right? This could be the intermediary between you and the divine. But what we have here is the realization that you are the direct link to the divine. You don't have to go through somebody else. It's not required. We give our confession, right? Or we sort of express ourselves to somebody else, and they have to take it up the chain of command, right? No, we're going straight to the boss ourselves, you know. And I feel that we can, you know, between the dynamic between these cards, we can accept the instruction and the teaching and the help from outside, right? Because the Hierophant is external wisdom coming in. Somebody telling us what to do, giving us advice, giving us the knowledge or the wisdom or the lecture, right? So we can receive the lecture, but the life really is going to require that you, as the magician, do the thing, okay? So it's kind of like this is the textbook, but if you really want to live the life, you got to go out there and do it yourself. The textbook isn't really, it's going to be a nice maybe foundation, but ultimately it's going to be your transmission of your divine energy, okay? That's going to create the life that you want, who you're trying to become. So anyway, we have our three majors. We have some fire. We don't have any water. It's interesting. We've got our air cards, and we've got our earth cards. Okay, so there's no water here. And I feel like, in a way, that's because of you're giving all that energy away. You know, you're giving, you're investing in something. I think that you are, you're the builder, right? You're putting energy into something to help bring about the realization of a goal, okay? And I think that the way it's happening now is that remember I said the Empress is kind of giving without any expectation of reward? That's why there's no water energy. We're not feeling the reward. We're feeling that we are kind of, that we've been doing this for a long time. Maybe there is a Taurus person in your life that you have been helping a lot or caring for, something like that. Because I kind of feel like rather than just the Empress saying, oh, I'm doing this, I'm being of service, I'm helping, I'm healing, whatever, and I don't expect anything in return, there has to be a limit, right? There has to be a line drawn where it's just like, okay, now maybe this is coming at too great an expense to myself. 9 of Swords. Okay. So if the Empress now is kind of experiencing this 9 of Swords, it may be in a very real way saying that, you know, I don't have much more to give because it's starting to really take a toll on me. We say the Empress can give with no concern for personal expense, you know, but in the human world, there's got to be a limit, because if we keep giving and giving and giving, and it's starting now to harm us, either energetically or spiritually or maybe financially, if it's starting to kind of to be a detriment to us, we have to figure out, like, where's the line, where's the balance, what do I do? Because I think that if the Empress keeps giving and giving and giving to something and feeling worse and worse and worse and worse, the Empress isn't going to have anything left to give anyway. So it's kind of it's a zero-sum kind of thing. I feel like the addition of the Magician card here is saying that we have to sort of speak up, we have to communicate, we have to maybe re-strategize. It's not saying that we have to get away from this situation. I almost feel like maybe there's an older family member, something that you're taking care of. Maybe there's somebody that you're supporting, somebody's living with you. Maybe it's an emotional support. Maybe it's you really trying to nurture and care for somebody else. But it's starting to come at a great personal cost to you. And the Magician is trying to figure out, how do I turn this into a win-win situation? How do I keep doing this, but how do I also kind of heal myself and restore myself? Maybe you're an empath. Maybe you're an energy worker. And it's saying that you are healing other people, and you are giving and giving and giving, but you're also in need of stability and healing for yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to continue healing others or helping others? Okay? whether we're talking like with physical resources and financial stuff, or if we're talking spiritual energy or emotional energy or that kind of healing or light work. Okay? It is not an infinite resource. Yeah. And so maybe this is a family member. Maybe there is that Taurus person in your life. I kind of feel there is a younger male energy, maybe a Taurus person in your life. And it could be that we keep giving and giving. And it's starting to take its toll. And we're realizing now that something has to change in this situation. Things can't stay the way they are. The magician is the one that can sort of communicate this, can figure out a way to have that conversation that's going to be kind of a win-win thing. How do we compromise? How do we establish, how do we communicate something that's going to allow us to both continue building whatever this is that we're building, whether it's a relationship or the business, or how do we keep doing it in a way that's going to be stabilizing for us? Okay, maybe we're not expecting, maybe it's like you're running like a nonprofit or something, right? But if you're just hemorrhaging money and you don't have enough, you're giving all your money away through this foundation or this charity or something, right? And you're doing all this good work, but if it keeps going this way, you're not going to be able to keep the doors open. And then nobody gets the benefit of your service, right? So the Empress isn't looking to just profit and have all this greed and all this, exorbitant wealth, but is trying to keep the doors open. Got to pay the basic bills. Got to keep the foundation here so I can continue to be of service, right? And with the Eight of Swords underneath, I feel like there is a bit of a dilemma here. Well, how do we do that? How do I take enough for myself so that I can be sustained, without feeling selfish, without feeling like I'm taking too much, without feeling as if I'm taking energy away from what I can do for other people to then do for myself, feel selfish, right? I think maybe the Empress needs to be a little bit selfish. Okay, it's the same way that a parent might be devoting all of their time to their children, giving. And then when that parent says, I need a break, I need an hour, or I need a day for myself just to do my thing, it might be frowned upon by somebody else, maybe by the child, or maybe by other people, maybe the parents or the in-laws or something, or by the world in general, just by our own conscience might be saying, I feel guilty for taking time for myself because I have a responsibility here. I know the blood, sweat, and tears that it's going to take for me to grow this thing or build this thing, but gosh darn it, I need a little bit of time for myself just to get back to a good place so I can continue giving. Okay? And I feel like the magician is going to figure out how to do that. The magician is the one that can build rapport. The magician is the one that can figure out the right kind of a negotiate. It's the strategy for negotiation. This is the energy that is needed right now, and this is really like not so much compromise, but figuring out a win-win kind of situation, or being able to present something to the other person in a way that feels like a win-win. And it's all about how you spin it. It's all about how you present it. It really is in not the message itself, but the packaging that the message is delivered in which the message is delivered, right? So, if you're saying, I need a break, or you're saying, I need time for myself, or you're saying, I need to keep a little bit of this money for me to pay the bills, how do we talk about that in a way that is, that kind of, presents it in a way that is it seems fair to everybody and is very win-win, and where other people can say, oh yeah, that makes total sense, let's do that, right? The magician is the one that kind of knows how to talk to their audience. So if this is a Taurus person in your life, it's kind of like, how do we present this to that Taurus person in a way, or maybe it's your boss. Maybe the Hierophant is your boss. Maybe this is, maybe the Taurus person is a supervisor, or I don't know. It could be anything like this. But how do we present it in a way that really sort of leads them to the understanding that this is going to be better for them too, right? Because if you can take time for yourself and you can get out from underneath this Nine of Swords, you're going to be more productive at your job. If this is a work thing, you'll be more productive at your job, and that's going to be better for the company as a whole, right? If you don't have what you need to keep going, the Ten of Pentacles is never going to be realized. The thing that you're building, it's never going to make any progress. So it's very difficult for the Empress to keep going and building something when it's starting to really feel the effects, the fatigue, maybe it's an emotional drain, maybe it's a financial, even a physical drain on you, okay? When you first began, you had infinite energy, okay? And I think that we set a precedent with this, and we kind of we started doing this with a lot of energy and a lot of resources, or a lot of devotion, a lot of time put into it. It was a big, huge burst of energy, and now we're realizing that energy is a huge spike, and then it tapers off, and then it's gonna level out somewhere. But we're experiencing it okay, now the other entity, the other person, or the boss, or the job, or whatever, now they're expecting that high peak to be the norm. But that was kind of like a one-shot deal, you know? So it's kind of we set the bar really, really high for ourselves, and now we feel, I don't know the other person, okay, I don't read third party, so I don't know who really is involved here, but we feel that now we're expected to be able to jump over that bar at the same height every time. But we're not always going to be able to do that. So we're kind of putting the pressure on ourselves. This is the Eight of Wands, it's pressure from inside, it's expanding outward. We're putting the pressure on ourselves right now, thinking that we have to continue to perform at the very high standard that we've always performed at. Okay. The magician can be that performer. The magician is the magician, or the musician, or literally like the stage performer. And it's kind of like you set the bar really, really high. Now everybody expects you to perform at that peak level every day. But it's kind of like we're starting to wonder, can I do that? I don't think I can perform at that level every single day, especially not when there's a Nine of Swords up here. Because the Nine of Swords is, to me, feels like a lot of, it almost feels like we're sort of scared to admit that I can't keep going this way. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's like someone who's getting close to burnout at work, but they're scared to tell their boss, hey, I can't keep working these hours, because we kind of feel like, I don't know, we feel like maybe it's us admitting weakness, or we feel like we're going to be looked down upon, or somehow we're disappointing somebody, right? These kinds of things. And so the Empress will very silently suffer through it until it just can't go anymore. But what we have to do is get rid of this. It almost feels like a shame, you know, where it's just like, hey, I can't run that fast anymore. I got to slow down, you know. I remember having that experience when I went hiking with my best friend, it was 10 years ago or so, or 15 years ago, and I was right after my transplant. And I wasn't all that strong. I didn't have a lot of energy. But he said, let's go hiking. Let's go to the top of Mission Peak. I said, all right. And, we started off, and I guess I didn't really know what to expect. But I kind of bit off more than I can chew there. And we started, and I was okay at the beginning. And I started really slowing down. And I started really slowing down. And I didn't want to say, hey, you know what? I'm too weak to do this right now. I should probably just stop here and rest, or go back to the car, you know. And so I just kept pushing forward. And of course, he just ran up and down the hill like it was nothing. And, you know, but eventually I made it to the top, and I pulled my body was just, it was in bad shape. I was out of commission for like a week after that, right? Probably shouldn't have pushed myself quite that hard. But there is, with this card, a reluctance to admit that. There's a reluctance for us to communicate and say, I can't sustain things the way they're going now. Okay, because we don't want to let anybody down. We don't want to admit weakness. We don't want to, all these things. But this is what the magician has to sort of, we kind of have to convince ourselves, I think, that it is through our adaptability and our elasticity of energy that we can figure out how to keep going and how to keep building something. We want to keep making progress. If we have this burst of energy now, but it fizzles out, and let's say we try to run up the mountain, but we end up like pulling all our muscles, and then we're out of commission for a week, we're not really making much progress. So it's better to go slow and steady and keep building something than to have this burst of energy and then say, okay, I've kind of like shot myself in the foot here. And the magician is the one that knows that, because manifesting isn't just about this great big surge of energy, any kind of goals. It's not just about this great big surge of energy and then we're going to get it. It's systematic. It's consistent. It's having the good routine. What is sustainable for you? Okay? What is going to work for you? And we have to be very honest about that, and we have to be able to communicate that, and we have to be able to put that into working system. It's one thing to kind of know, okay, well, I know like how I should pace myself. Maybe that's what this is, pacing, right? It's one thing to know that. It's another thing to implement it and follow through with that. Okay, it's kind of like saying, oh, no, you know what? I rode the bike for an hour today. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I'm taking it easy. I'm not going to push myself beyond my capacity. I'm going to slowly build my capacity up. Okay? I'm not going to just try to suddenly go into the gym and lift 1,000 pounds. No, I'm going to start with just like 10, 20, 30, 40, work my way up. This is all about the incremental goals, because whatever you're investing in, whatever you're committed to, is taking a lot of resources out of you. And the Eight of Swords is kind of like we're getting close to that point where we're just going to kind of quit, or we're going to run ourselves right into the ground, and we're not going to have a choice whether to quit or continue. What we want, what we're hoping for, is to keep building this. Okay? But if we're not going to change anything, if we're unwilling to adapt or to be sort of elastic and be a little bit flexible, then we're going to put ourselves right out of commission, and we're not going to get to the goal anyway. Okay? Because what we have in the future position, what we're really hoping for, the outcome we want, is that this thing keeps growing. It keeps working. Maybe this is your business. Maybe it's your physical health. Maybe it's your healing. You don't want to rush your healing. You don't want to rush your progress. You can't rush there are no big wins. There are no overnight wins, let's say, with your finances either. It's kind of like, I'm just going to go bet it all on black, and then hopefully I'm going to win and all my problems will be solved. No, it's consistent effort over the course of time that really makes the grade. Okay? And I feel like if you have this looming Nine of Swords, you got to trust this feeling, because this is the feeling that says, I can't keep going at this high level because I can't live up here and be consistent. I got to be like around here somewhere. I don't want to be way down here where I'm doing way, way less than I'm capable, right? Because then I'm not going to make any progress either. So we want to be right in the middle. I think we have to trust the feeling, okay? Because this feeling is probably telling you to slow down. Pace yourself, okay? The blood, sweat, and tears that you are shedding for the sake of this goal, you need to replenish those nutrients, right? You need that iron. You need those electrolytes back, right? So we have to take care of ourselves and pace ourselves here. Otherwise, we're never going to get to the goal that we want. Now, Path of the Serpent, you got your 10 of Pentacles. This is what the magician is trying to manifest. And once we realize that we're the magician, we will understand how, because our goal is to manifest this, 10 of Pentacles, best life. Maybe it's your general energy. So maybe this is saying perfect health or wealth. Fitness, finances, whatever you want. This is that goal, right? And I think it's maybe an internal goal, or it's kind of like a life goal, or it's some state that I want to achieve. The magician is saying, well, this is what I'm manifesting. I have to know how to do that. Can't just go with this, just a burst of energy that's not really focused or paced. This is like I'm sprinting when I'm in a marathon. Why am I sprinting? I'm in a marathon, right? You keep sprinting, you're not going to finish the marathon. So if our goal here is established, if we know what the goal is, we can understand how to sort of pace ourselves to get to that goal. Okay, that's part of the strategy of the magician, because the only thing that matters is getting to the goal. So we got to do what we got to do. If I admit that I've got to slow down, or I need different resources, or I need a day off, or I've got to do the self-care, or I need to eat a few more calories or whatever, like get more energy, then that's what I'm going to have to do. Okay. The magician will find the means to the end. Okay. Now, the Ten of Pentacles, like I said, is you understanding what your goal is. I think this is your pets, your plants, your people. This is your good life. This is the Empress life that you want. You know, this is what you're bleeding, sweating, and crying for. This is the picture of your best life. Okay, whatever that goal is. And I feel like you know what the goal is. And this is kind of our aspiration. This is kind of like the carrot in front of us. Yeah. When we have the Hierophant in the environment, a lot of the time this is kind of this is almost a judgment coming from outside, and then because it's in the position of your relationships, I feel like we're sort of we feel that we are expected now to perform at a very high level, and so it doesn't feel good to have to say, even just to ourselves, you know what? That's not my level. I need to slow down. I can't keep going at this pace. And, you know, I think there's going to come a point where I don't care what the Hierophant thinks. I don't care what anybody else is doing. Okay? Because this is something that is external to us that we're trying to conform to. Some other measurement. It could be that we're comparing ourselves to other people, or we feel as if we are being judged by other people who are sort of comparing us to them. Okay, whether it's coworkers or whatever it might be. I think this is our perception, that we don't want to appear like we are not capable of operating at that super high level all the time. I think I can't help but think of like the wrestler. Are you into wrestling or something, or you were at one point? Because I can't help think of like those old wrestlers, like the professional wrestlers, where they were just like level 10 crazy, like all the time. But I bet when they went home and took the makeup off, they were just kind of chill. Like they're not like that all day. They're not like that 24/7, 365. They're like that when they need to be, but they know how to bring it down, right? And so we kind of look at the Hierophant as thinking like, I've got to be on all the time now because everybody's like looking at me, you know? I think you're a natural healer. And I think that you have to use some of that energy to heal yourself so that you can function at that very high level. Sometimes you got to stop and rest and heal so that you can have these big bursts of energy. Now, I know it's about pacing ourselves. We don't want to reach that stage where we sort of burn out and then we have to take a couple days off, you know. It'd be better to avoid that altogether. But I wonder if you're kind of there now, where it's like you need to admit that you need to rest right now. And maybe it means that you're taking a little bit of time away from the goal, or you know, you're taking a day off from work. Maybe you haven't taken a day off in years. You maybe need to take one day off, if you can, right? Maybe it's just that we need a few minutes in order to heal and sort of repair ourselves. And then when we get started again, it's going to be on that consistent, more routine, more systematic pacing, right, of life. Because I feel that you were going full speed ahead, you know, and maybe this was like maybe we had the energy to do that at some point. Maybe we had this momentum and we had this speed and we were always on. Now I feel like things are slowing down a little bit, or we're realizing that there is a need to slow down, okay? The Nine of Swords, really, it could literally be an injury or an illness that has slowed you down a little bit. And if we don't focus on that and take care of that, we're never going to be able to build the life we want anyway. This is like somebody that might be functioning at a very high level of activity and focus and putting in a lot of hours, but then they get sick, they get a diagnosis or something, and they just kind of like, they don't say anything, they don't tell anybody. They just keep trying to operate at that high level, you know, out of sight, out of mind. If I ignore it, then it's not going to bother me. I think that we need to realize that, okay, hey, maybe our focus needs to go on the internal healing a little bit, and we can slow down with these other things more, but that's going to be better for that goal anyway, right? Because if we want to run ourselves completely into the ground, we're not going to have any energy left. We're not going to be able to build this thing. Okay, so self-care has to be number one for you right now. Now, I'm not predicting any kind of an injury, or nothing like that. If it is that, you already know about it. It's already happened. You're sort of already in that state where I think you realize that you need to do this healing, whether it's spiritual healing, emotional healing. If you want to continue on your path, you got to pause right now and do the healing. That's the message, regardless of what you think the Hierophant is going to say about you. Yeah. The Four of Wands is in the position of the obstacle, and I think that's kind of the obstacle. Like, it's, you got to know when to turn in for the night. You got to know when to sort of come home and rest, because we want to just kind of keep this thing going and going and going and going. The Eight of Wands is like, we don't know what time of the day it is. We're just in this heightened, this highly aroused state, right? High level of activity. The Four of Wands in this case is kind of saying, like, you know what, it's dark out, the sun's gone down, let's go home and rest. We have to be able to know, because this card is kind of like the internal clock. We have to know what our own internal clock is saying. It's time to go rest. And we have to listen to that, right? So this card is about cycles. This card is about like wrapping up the day and resting, recovering, sleeping, and then going back the next day and getting back to it, right? These are the sort of fundamentals of life that we need. And it's like, good food, good water, good rest, right? We need the physical sort of movement, the stretching and just the light walking and stuff, and just the things that'll help us heal. Okay? Maybe this is saying that the path that you've been on has been exceedingly stressful. Okay? And rather than sort of, turning in and finding ways that we can manage that stress, you've just been sort of living with it and kind of doubling down on it and getting more stressed. That's not sustainable. We're trying to do something sustainable here because we've got goals. We've got some kind of levels that we want to reach, whatever it might be. We're trying to build something. Okay. I do think there is a Taurus person somewhere in your life. I feel like your situation is improving. You're building the thing. But we want to keep building it. We don't want to burn out before it's finished, right? Now, the Spirit's showing me some kind of like, I don't know, what are they, knitting needles? Or I don't know if is it crocheting or something like this, but the two long sticks, and you're like doing something with the yarn. This could be something very simple, and maybe that's the message. That's just like, we kind of have to know when to set it down for the night and like, massage our hands and let our hands rest and get a good night's sleep, and then we can come back and we can keep doing it again tomorrow. It doesn't have to be some huge life goal. It doesn't have to be that you're building this empire and, sometimes you got to just take a day off from your empire building, in order to take care of yourself. But I feel like self-care is really the message right now. With the Four of Pentacles, we do see the incremental goals. We see like, let's realize that this doesn't have to be one giant leap to the finish line, that we accomplish a big goal in chunks. And so the message then is to take care of, get into a good routine where you're caring about yourself, you're sustaining yourself, you're doing things that are right for you to keep you strong and healthy, and you're meeting your goals on a consistent basis, day to day. Break them down into smaller goals. That way we don't think that we just got to run as fast as we can to get to the goal. We think of like, okay, I'm in it for the long haul. This is going to be a marathon, and I need to know how to pace myself. I want to look at the mystery card. I fully expect this to be a card of self-care. I want a 4, a 6, a 9, a 10 of cups. I want some water energy here. Because I feel like you're not nourishing yourself. I feel like you're giving to something or someone else, but you're not taking any nourishment for yourself. It's like you can't keep feeding everybody else, but then you don't eat. That doesn't make any sense, right? So let's see what we have. The Wheel of Fortune. Interesting now, the Wheel of Fortune, because as much as we're talking about our internal sort of cycles and the human time, this is divine time. This is basically saying if you don't know when to pause and rest and slow down and take care of yourself, Spirit's going to force you. Okay? The universe is going to force you to sit down. You know, it's kind of like sit down before I sit you down kind of thing from the universe. Because if we don't if we don't take care of ourselves, then eventually our bodies are just going to break down, our mind is going to break down or whatever, and we're going to be unable to continue. The universe will take care of that for us. So we either do something now to implement some changes and to get in a better pace, a better cycle, or the universe is going to do it for us by burnout, by overwhelming stress, this kind of thing. The universe will find a way to get you to stop and take care of yourself. Better that we kind of choose to do that on our own before Spirit has to kick in and kind of force you to do it in a way that might not be all that pleasant. Do you know what I'm saying? So let's maintain the car before the car breaks down. Okay? Let's change the oil before the engine blows up. It just seems smart that way. Yeah, Wheel of Fortune. I think things are going to get a lot better for you. I think you're going to get your goals. Your life is going to be amazing. We got to pace ourselves. We got to find the stress management. You got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to take care of yourself. Now, we're going to do an extended reading as well. If you want to stick around, we're going to do an I Ching hexagram. We're going to do some oracle cards. There's a link in the corner. There's a link down below. New readings for Libra Wednesdays and Saturdays. Be sure to watch both readings. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. The readings are totally free. Leave a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from. I want you to know that you're the most important part of Dove and Serpent Tarot. I thank you and I love you. And we're all in this together.